right, thank you all for being here this evening, and thank you for everyone who's watching on social media as we do another State of the City. It's been a number of years since we've done something like this, and certainly not in my time or do I know of us ever doing an event quite like this. So something new and unique, and hopefully we continue doing it for the foreseeable future. Want to thank you all for being here. I'm Nick Dutro. I'm your city administrator here for the great city of Tiffin, Ohio. As I introduce you and get ready to introduce our speaker here tonight, I want to acknowledge the tables that we have here in the front row. We have some of our folks who are members of Tiffin City Council, as well as employees of the City of Tiffin. These are the folks who do all the things that make this community work and make this a great place to be at. So thank you all for being here this evening. And again, thank you to everyone who is here tonight in person. It's really great to, again, be able to meet like this and get together. I'm not going to take too long. I just want to take some time and tell you that we're going to have a nice evening here where we hear all the things that have occurred in the city in the last couple of years, and certainly the last year as our focus here. And so with that, it's my privilege to welcome your honor, the mayor, Lee Wilkinson. So, Mayor.
You know, I still have to get used to people saying Your Honor. That's just so far out there. But I got a chance to walk around and talk to most of you when you came in, and I just feel like this is less of a speech and more like talking to a group of friends, which is really nice. But I think it would probably be appropriate to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to go ahead, if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And as Nick mentioned, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your support. I do appreciate the time out of your evening to come here and see what this is all about. This is a little new to me. You know, if someone had asked me, you know, how long this is going to take, and a lot of people did, how long are you going to take? I don't think I could talk for 90 minutes like the president or the governor, but if I talked to my students from Heidelberg that I was teaching a couple of years ago, they would say, yes, you can. You can talk for 90 minutes. I'm sure you can. So we already recognized members of our city council, but I do want to start with that, and I have to figure out how to use the computer here. If you're sitting in a place where you can't see, I'm going to have some slides up on the screen up there. Feel free to move your chair or sit at a different table if you want to. I will not be offended at all. And there's still plenty of food in the back. And I think there's a cash bar that might come in handy. If I do go 90 minutes, you know, feel free to do that. Anyway, for City Council, I see we have Aaron Jones here and Scott Horniman and any other City Council members. Dennis Snay, saw him earlier, and Kevin Reesner. Okay, yeah, thank you guys for coming. We also have the County Commissioner, Brent Bustecker, and the Fostoria Mayor, Don Manell. Thank you for coming. I don't know. Kyle Doherty. I still have trouble with your last name, sorry. Doherty. Okay, so I'll have to work on that. Okay, so anyway, thank you for coming. It's great to see you. And I know that some of you probably, and hopefully there's people watching at home, and if the people like watching at home watch city council meetings, they probably see, like when we have those, the reading of the resolutions and the ordinances, and then almost without fail, everybody votes yes, every time. And so I've heard this from people around town, like, you have a bunch of yes people on city council. Well, that's not actually true. City council does so much more than that. They go to committee meetings. Each council person is the head of at least one committee, and then they're members on 2 other committees. And when they go to those committee meetings, sometimes they're indoors, but sometimes they're outside. They go to meet where there's an alley vacation or a stoplight that's maybe going to survive or be taken down. And they have discussions and community members show up, and it could be heated at times. You know, that's where the real discussion happens, you know, like, are we for this or not for this? And so maybe you don't see that all the time. But pay attention to those announcements coming out if you want to see that, because those are open to the public too. Come out and join those. So anyway, thank you, City Council, for the hard work that you do. I do appreciate it. Also, thank you to kind of, I was going to say my right-hand man, but that doesn't really cover it. Nick Dutrow, City Administrator. I'm sure that I wore a path from my office to Nick's office, especially in the first 3 or 4 months of 2024, finding out information, gathering information, sharing information, and asking and getting answers to questions that I just didn't know how to get answers to. So thank you, Nick. And since Amanda, my administrative assistant, has come on, no matter how much we pile on her, like immediately, can you get this done by 4 o'clock today? It'll be done by 2. She is really good at just taking the bull by the horns and getting stuff done. So I do appreciate that. So thank you, Amanda. You asked me when to clap, and I said thank you twice there. So back when I was campaigning in 2023, on 4th Avenue, I think it was, there was a family with kids. They were playing outside, and this little girl came up, and she said, "What does the mayor do, actually?" That's a tough question. So I said, the mayor tries to get people to work together to make living in Tiffin better. Just to make living in Tiffin better. And she thought that was a pretty good answer. Her parents thought it was a pretty good answer too. So that's what I try to remember that all the time, okay? But after taking office, I found out that I also do a whole bunch of other things. Perform, I think I had 19 or 20 weddings in 2024. Some proclamations, I can't really tell you how many proclamations I had to read. And sometimes I even pick up trash. During the eclipse weekend in April of 2024, some of the businesses wanted to have like a block party in City Lot 5. And during the meeting, they said, well, we're going to need trash picked up. Who's going to do that? And I was like, I could do it. And I didn't realize that I was really going to be the one to do it. Because I went down there, it was on a Friday night or a Saturday, and the trash cans were overflowing from the food trucks and everything. And so I went and got my truck and emptied the trash cans. I mean, that's just what you do. Somebody asked me, "You're the mayor, don't you have anything better to do?" And I said, not right now. This is it. This is what I have to do right now. I'll do the important stuff like later, but right now this is the most important thing to do. And I also like make personal visits. So the personal visits I make whenever someone calls with a problem, and that's usually when someone calls City Hall, is when they have a problem or something to complain about. And Amanda handles all those initially, but I get some of those, and I like to go out and see like what is the problem. Show me what it is. I had an email just a couple of Saturdays ago. I happened to be in the office on Saturday, and I opened this email, and it was kind of a irate customer, resident customer. Is that okay? Can I substitute that in there? And so I read the email, and I went out there to his house, and he was home, and I was like, show me what the problem is. And his attitude just changed totally, because people want personal service. They want, that personal contact. They want to see that you care. And that's the thing about everybody, really, that I have come in contact in this job in the City of Tiffin is people care. And one of the things I want to point out is for all of our department heads that work in the City of Tiffin and their departments, I'm sure they care a lot. And I have to tell you, that's not true in every small town in every city. I went to a new mayor's conference in the middle of 2024 because I thought, well, this could be good. New mayor's conference, I'm a new mayor, so I'm going to go ahead and go and see what it turned into. And there were horror stories. People were telling, about how the mayor backed out of City Hall, let him in. police department was fighting with the fire department. All of those things that we don't have to deal with because everybody seems to collaborate and cooperate and get along. So I think we're really fortunate here in Tiffin. I know I'm getting off just how I do things. Sorry. So I want to talk a little bit about arts and the go through. At the first part of 2024, I have to tell this story. At the end of 2023, before I even took office, I was already sworn in, but I hadn't taken office yet. I was in the city building like every day during that last week, between Christmas and New Year's, thinking that, okay, I'll just get to know my way around a little bit and, figure things out. And I thought, plus we have a city council meeting coming up on January 2nd. It's going to be my first city council meeting, and I'm thinking that it'll be pretty easy. There won't be a lot of ordinances, resolutions. All the business for 2023 is finished. And then Brandon Berner, Public Works Superintendent, every day there was a request coming in for legislation. And this is new to me. So all these requests coming in for legislation is like, okay, what do I do? The next day we got a couple more, and the next day we got a couple more. And I appreciate that he's just planning and getting ready for 2024, which is awesome. But I'm freaking out at this point in time. So I called Nick, and Nick came in on one of his days off vacation to help me out to figure out, okay, here's what we have to do, like write this request for legislation, and then it's ready. It was so easy. I just didn't. It was just my first time. I was like, thank you very much for helping me out. And I'm sure his wife was mad at me for calling him off of vacation day to help me out. But it was good. It worked out. So we got it figured out, and things went well. And then at the first city council meeting, I went over my goals for this term, and there they are up there. Okay? So I outlined this in front of the city council, and it actually turned out to be something that I could use as a guide for things that were going to happen over the next 4 years. I'm only like a year and a quarter in, but over the next 4 years. So financial accountability, long-range planning. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to actually get to all of these as I talk about like the department heads, so I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Continued economic development. I heard all the time when I was campaigning, just keep things going, keep things going. Things are going in the right direction, keep it going. And things are going, so that's good. Infrastructure upgrades, and I didn't know how important this was until I got to sit in a couple of meetings with our city engineer, Matt Watson, because part of the infrastructure that we have to deal with, roads, bridges, sewers, and there is so much that goes into that. It's mind-boggling. Like, we had a meeting today, and Matt outlined all the things that he had to do next year, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm glad you're doing it because it was a lot. So those things are really important. And if the city's going to grow, then we need that, you know. If we're going to grow in housing or if we're going to grow in economic development, we need those infrastructure. Supporting our youth and educational programs. This is really important to me. I've been a teacher for 35 years, so this is kind of a natural to me, but I also heard in a lot of meetings with people around Tiffin that we want Tiffin to be a place where our kids will come back to and live and raise their families. And for that to be true, then we have to support them now and later. So not only do we have to have housing and jobs in the infrastructure, but we also need to support them now with all the things that we do. So that's where it comes in, like Parks and Rec has all of the summer camp programs. You know, give the kids experiences that they will remember. You know, if you think back on your childhood, I do this all the time. You know, think back on my childhood. All the things that make me want to go back home and remember those things. So, you know, kind of help build a life for them. And so that's in there. And then community safety, of course, you can't really have a strong community without community safety, the police and fire. That's really important. We want to make sure that they have all the tools they need to be successful at their jobs. And then we want to take steps to alleviate the housing crisis. I went to actually a couple of them. There was a housing roundtable in Fostoria at the Economic Development Center in Fostoria. And that was really interesting to get all the people around the table and try to just share ideas. And that's one thing I noticed about in all of these meetings that I go to, because like we go to a lot of meetings, okay, but all of them are geared towards fixing problems and making things better in Tiffin and Seneca County. And so those are really important things to do. So I actually had a meeting with a panel. I think Bryce Riggs was on this panel at the League of Women Voters at the library, talking about housing. And we had several people there. Renee from Fostoria and Sarah, Bryce, myself. Who else was there? Somebody else was there. Adam Gilmore and Bill Jones, right. Thank you. And it was good to have all those different perspectives so that we could all just take what we have learned and help each other grow at least our knowledge so that we can figure out how to start solving these problems. So anyway, those are my goals. So I want to touch on each one of those as like we go forward. Okay? I'm trying to figure out how to use the computer. I've made notes on top of the computer. Never mind. You wouldn't be able to do this if you were the governor. can't stop and talk about like where your notes are. So in human resources, Deb Reamer is like, she is a department of one. And she does everything. We have 130 full-time employees and plus 40 or so part-time and seasonal employees. And she takes care of anything that has to do with hiring, firing, benefits, insurance, all of that. And I think her desk looks about like this. At this point in time, she is also in the city building, the person with the longest employment. She's been there the longest out of anybody, and she used to be the city administrator. So if I have a question that nobody else can answer, I go to Deb Reamer, and she usually has experience with it. So a new policy called the carryover, or I call it the unencumbered balance policy, but it's really the minimum carryover policy, which kind of protects the city of Tiffin so that we can stay financially stable, but it also allows us to have a guideline as to what we can do. So when I plug that into here, that kind of helps us figure out, okay, now our blue line, the general fund, is stable still, but now, and I know it's hard to see from where you're at. I'm talking like you're like right up on it, sorry. But in the green and the red, you can see now the green line, which is our capital expenses, or our capital fund for policy, which kind of protects the city of Tiffin. So it's important to have that past information so that we can kind of guide ourselves to it's still going on. So always planning and revising and refining so that it can get better and more accurate. And it's going pretty well. So I'm pretty happy about that. So that's our long-range planning. In the engineering department, I'm forgetting to flip my pages. I'm going to be in trouble later on because I'm going to lose my spot. Okay. Matt Watson is our city engineer, and he, like I said, he's the ultimate planner. He's got all of his stuff planned out 15 years, and they are in charge of like those big infrastructure projects, roads, bridges, sewers, and they also do all of the permitting. So any building permits for small or large things in the city of Tiffin go through the engineer's office. Okay? I'm going to have to move this. And in 2024, there were 147 permits issued. And when they do this, they keep track of the estimates of the work being done. And that resulted in approximately $27.6 million of private investment into the city of Tiffin. That's amazing. Mind-blowing. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that was really good. So things are moving along in the city of Tiffin. There is investment into the city of Tiffin that is helping us all the time to make things better, okay? Now, you're probably familiar with the Ellis Street Bridge. I wanted to go back to 2023 and mention this just because it kind of highlights something. We did a rededication of the Ellis Street Bridge in 2024 as the Rich Vote Memorial Bridge. But that total project cost of about $4 million was mostly paid for by grant funds. Now, our road and bridge levy helped a lot. And I'll talk a little bit about like those grant applications and the road and bridge levy here in a second, because that is coming up on our May 6th ballot, the road and bridge levy, as a continuation so that we can use those funds to continue to plan and keep our infrastructure up to date. It's kind of like investing in your future. You really need to like put that money away so that we can have it and fix the things that need to be fixed. Bring them back up to date, okay? So the road and bridge levy, each year it brings in between $1.1 and $1.5 million approximately. This last year we paved 24 streets. 2025 we're going to pave 28 streets. And because of the road and bridge levy, here's what happens when you fill out those applications. One thing you have to put in there is how much is the city contributing to this project. And if we can contribute funds to the project, we're more likely to get awarded state and federal funds to help us with the project. If we can't contribute funds to the project, our application goes to the bottom. We might get some, but because the citizens of Tiffin were wise enough, thank you, for passing the road and bridge levy, that helps us get additional funding, and since 2018, an additional $7.7 million from state and federal grants for our local projects. So that Ellis Street Bridge, all done, no long-term debt, no borrowing. Awesome. So, anyway, keep that in mind. Let me know if I say something. You know, I was talking to Matt earlier. I said, I know I'm going to say something wrong. Just call me out. It's okay. You can do that. Okay. I love this fun fact here, also provided by Matt Watson. Since 2018, the City Engineer's Office has brought in nearly $14.4 million in local, state, and federal grant funds. That does not count the funds that we collect with the road and bridge levy to, you know, pave the roads and fix the bridges. That is local, state, and federal grant funds. Wow, that's a lot. So in 2025, we have the projects all laid out already. Of course, the annual street paving, and you can find all this information on the engineer's website. That's how I found it. You just go there and you say, it's all mapped out. You can take a look at the map and you can say, okay, is my street on there? And then, yeah, if you can't tell, give me a call. We'll look at it together. But it's on there. The Court Street streetscape started this week, so I'm excited about that. I think that most of the heavy lifting on that will be done by the end of May. Is that correct? Okay, good. So it won't be all summer long, because people were saying, oh my gosh, all summer long it's going to be torn up. No, I don't think so. Now there might be some finishing touches that go on after that, you know, like decorative light poles. I won't say anything about the arch because I think that's a secret. So that's going on right now. Also, to help protect our investment in those roads and bridges, Reclamite Rejuvenator is going to be put down on some of the roads that were paved a couple of years ago to bring them back up to help them last longer, bring them back up to like standard. So that's going to actually save us money in the long run. The 224 paving project, that one will be paid for mostly by grant funds as well. Like 80% up to $335,000, if I remember. And right now, there's a study going on, the West Market Street Safety Study. No work planned yet, just a safety study to see if any part of that can be improved for pedestrian and traffic so that we can get along a little bit better with our cars versus our pedestrians, because the cars almost always win. So we're trying to do a little study there to figure out if some changes can be made that will make that safer for us all. And then, of course, the sewer projects, which that LTCP, if you don't know, that's the long-term control plan. So we need to talk about that. That is the big heavy lift, and that's the sewer project. And so I just wanted to point out before we go to long-term control plan that our sewer projects in 2024 were done with a lot of principal forgiveness loans. So WPCLF, Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, but it's a loan, but it's principal forgiveness, so it's like a grant. So $4 million there. $390,000 from the Ohio Water and Wastewater Grant, and over $2 million of other grants and awards just for our sewer projects through the engineering department. So let's talk a little bit about the long-term control plan. So this is EPA mandated. It's got to happen. The original estimated cost in 2015 was $82.4 million. The updated costs with inflation, $160 million. This is why when, if you watch the candidates night for the League of Women Voters down at the middle school, and then they asked me, like, what would I do with the long-term control plan? I said, we have a plan. We need to do the plan, stick to the plan, because if you put it off, it's just going to get more expensive. So stick to the plan. That's why the plan's there. Anyway, it's a multi-phase plan. And that green line, if you could see that, it's, you know, as a mathematician, I hate saying the word line when it's not straight. But I'm going to do that for you. So that's okay. All right. So the original cost of this included that green line, which is the main interceptor, and it goes all the way up to the sewer plants, Water Pollution Control Center, which is way up there at the top of the screen. And that's about, is that over a mile? I think it's about 1.2 to 1.4 miles. And then it was going to end up going to a big basin called the EQ Basin. So the reason they were doing this is because there were overflow events. So like if we had a big rain like we had this morning, and if the sewer plant can't handle all of it, then it overflows. And guess where it goes? It's going to go in the river, okay? But the plan then, you know, the original plan, tell me if I'm wrong. No, am I okay there? Am I good? Okay, good. It's good to have a fact checker right here in the room. Okay. Yes. Okay. So that was the plan. So this big EQ basin was supposed to hold any like overflow rainfall events like we had this morning, and then release them gently into the sewer plant as it could be handled. So it seemed like a good plan. Well, it was also really, really expensive, because to run that underground pipe for the main interceptor about over a mile, millions. And even the EQ basin, the big tank that was going to hold the overflow, like the estimate on that, I remember that one was 22 million. Okay. But it's burning. Turn the oven off. New technology has been, I don't know when this came out, but it became available to the City of Tiffin. And so we thought, well, let's look into it and see if we can get EPA to approve this. So this new technology, HRT, the high rate treatment facility, because if this works, it's going to save us a lot of money. Turns out it does work. Some of our employees from the wastewater plant went to Indiana to view it in action and see what it looked like before we just jump right into it. But this will allow us now to make that main interceptor a lot shorter. So we bought some property just off of Harrison and Water Street, and that's where this new high rate treatment facility is going to go. So that takes a mile off of those large underground sewer pipes going to the sewer plant. And it also makes it so we don't have to build that big EQ basin. So the whole thing combined, this should save us, actually, when I say us, I mean the taxpayers of the City of Tiffin, because like I'm one of you. It saves us about $20 million. And so that seems like a good save. That's good. So anyway, I would just want to congratulate and thank Matt Watson. He's doing an excellent job of helping us save money. And, you know, for all of our department heads, I just have to point this out just because I thought of it. It's, like, I don't think any of them worked just 9 to 5 or even 8:30 to 4:30. It's one of those things where if you have the right people in the right positions, they're always working. So I know Matt goes home and he thinks about this stuff at home at night. I can tell because he sends me emails and text messages to my phone at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. So I know he's up thinking about all this stuff that's going on with the City of Tiffin. And those are the kind of people that you need to have in your corner. So, thank you. All right, I do want to take a moment to mention this. I'm sure you noticed that on a lot of the previous slides you saw the grant funds that came in that were like over $2 million in sewer funds, $4 million for the roads, for the Ella Street Bridge, which had $2.5 million in grant funds to help pay for that. Okay, well, a lot of those funds come from this, the state of Ohio, OPWC, the Ohio Public Works Commission, and they get funded through bond issues by the state of Ohio. It does not increase anybody's taxes, but this is going to be on the ballot May 6th. So, without me saying it, you know it's important to the City of Tiffin because, see, when I'm acting in official capacity as mayor, I'm not supposed to campaign for anything. So I can't really say it. So I'm not saying it, but you know, it's been really important for the City of Tiffin. So when you go to vote, and I know you're all going to vote in the primary, right? We need a better than, what is it, 25% voting? What? Return, you're right, on the election, thank you. So this would be an important one. So there's two, road and bridge levy, Ohio issue 2, okay? Sorry, that was my only political plug, I guess. Okay, so got to put that in there. In our public works departments, they do everything. Well, they do everything that nobody else wants to do, really. They take care of all the street maintenance, potholes, street sweeping, grading the alleys, sewer maintenance, rebuilding sewers, all of it. Traffic signal maintenance, repair, tree planting, pruning. Just recently planted 52 trees. And we really like trees. We're going to get to those in a second. They also do the leaf collection, snow removal, and I still haven't gotten to ride in one of the plow trucks yet. We had some opportunities this winter, but it just didn't happen. No? Fact checker. Okay. And then the last thing on the list up there is something we'll talk about here in a minute, is the tree lawn reclamation or restoration. So we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But I do want to bring up one of the projects, and I know this was done in 2023, so not during my administration, but there was backflow preventers for the combined sewers that were in the floodplain. And the projected costs, all of the long-term control plan is projected out. So they project how much it's going to cost. We had those like years ago. Okay, projected cost was $1.59 million. Public Works did the work themselves at a cost of $92,800, saving the city, us, about $1.5 million. So this is what I'm saying, that people care. I mean, it could have been just as easy to say, no, we're going to contract it out and we're going to pay somebody $1.59 million to do it. But, you know, if we have the equipment and we have the manpower, then we can get it done and we can save a ton of money. And so those are the kind of people we need on our side. Brandon Berner is one of those people. And same thing. I know he doesn't work 9 to 5 or even 7 to 3, but he's always working and thinking. He called me this morning at, was it before 7 o'clock? It was after 7. I don't want to tell you what I was doing, but he called me this morning at 7 o'clock just to respond to an email that I sent him yesterday just to make sure I got it. So thank you. See, those are the kind of people you need. It's people who care, that want to do the job right. Also does a really good job with seeking funding. Other 2024 sewer projects funded by $500,000 in grants. Amazing. So talking about the trees, the urban forest, that would be our trees in the city of Tiffin. And we received, and I hope I got the figure right, $68,644 in grant funds. Now, IRA up there is not your individual retirement account. It's the, what is it, IRA? Inflation Reduction Act funds. And so we got a fairly large grant from the Inflation Reduction Act and other sources to help complete the tree inventory, plant those 52 trees, and put together a master planting design. And we all benefit from those. You know, we see the trees all the time. We don't really know how much of a benefit it is, but you know, it lowers the temperature for our city. Like in your neighborhood, I'm sure the temperature is lower than it is out at Westgate, where they don't have many trees. You know, take a note sometime, see how that works. Reduces the carbon dioxide and air pollution, and absorbs some of the stormwater. So when we get trees in there that absorb the stormwater and then kind of reduce erosion, then we have less to do with making that stormwater go where it's supposed to go. If the trees are absorbing it, then that's taken care of naturally. So that's excellent. Okay. I don't have any idea what page I'm on. I don't know. Oh yeah, it's up there, isn't it? Okay. And because of all the work that Brandon has done with the trees and the Tree Commission, Tiffin has been Tree City USA for the last 44 years running and qualified for the Growth Award for the 6th year in a row, which is a big deal. So anytime we have an Arbor Day celebration, then, you know, I want to be there. It's a big deal. I want to do it. Feel free to jump in there.
Second year in a row. I think it's the 6th total.
Oh, second in a row, but 6 total. Okay. Thank you. So I mentioned this tree lawn restoration program. Now this is actually part of the grant funds are used for this. It's a voluntary program. When some people first heard about it, they were like, you can't make me do that. Well, no, we're not going to make you do it. But it's really nice, if you want to have us do this for you. And we're just trying to turn the one on the left there, that's where somebody kind of has been parking their car next to the street forever. And some people put stone down, some people just park there because there's not on-street parking. So sometimes that happens. But now we have an opportunity to turn that one on the left back into the one on the right, which is so much nicer, where you have a tree lawn, you can plant a tree, you can have nice grass, and increase the green space, which helps all of us. So it's a voluntary program. If you want to have this done, if you have an issue outside your house where people have been parking and making ruts and it's stoned and you don't want that, give Brandon a call. I was going to say give me a call, but then I would have to call Brandon. So give Brandon a call. Call Public Works. He'll put you on the list. We'll get it taken care of. You always have to now be careful. Years and years ago, I worked in a bank, and the bank president told me, you have to be careful when you're out in public, because what you say, people are going to count on that. So if you're out in public and you say, we're going to do it, then they come into the bank and they ask, like the bank president, okay, your loan officer said we're going to do this. And he's like, okay, I guess we are. Because when you say it, it's going to happen. So I have to be careful now when I say, call Brandon and we'll get it done. Then I have to be careful about that, because now you're going to count on it. And I don't want to be, telling you something that's false. I don't want to say the word lie, but. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Sometimes if I talk too fast, and in here, if there's a lot of echoing, it's hard to understand what's going on. So feel free to move closer to the front if you need to. So anyway, that's our tree lawn restoration program. At the Water Pollution Control Center, I have to mention this, I don't think Kevin is here. Kevin Hughes, the Water Pollution Control Superintendent. But they only have 7 employees, and they handle all of this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's always on. They can't ever shut this off. Because if they do, then when we flush our toilet, it's not going to go where we want it to go. So it always has to be on. In 2024, there was a lightning strike, and I think this happened about 2:30 in the morning, and Kevin has an alarm on his phone that's connected to all the devices out here at the Water Pollution Control Center, so that if something goes wrong, he gets a notification. So he's always on call. So he wakes up at, I don't know, 2:30, whenever his alarm goes off, he goes out there with his team, and they're trying to get everything back online before you and I are even awake and know what happened. So it's an awesome responsibility, and they do a really good job at it. If you've not been out here, that means that who's taking care of your yard waste and stuff like that? Because one thing that they do is they collect all of the yard waste and leaves here, and then they return that to us for our gardens and trees in the form of mulch and compost. And so if you've never seen this advertisement, this is on the Water Pollution Control Center Facebook page. I don't know if they have a Facebook page or is it the website? Well, on the website. So the compost giveaway, it's in October. So if you're like, oh, I never heard of this, I need to write it down, put it on your calendar. So when October comes around, I think it's first come, first serve. Like there's no reservations. Just got to show up with your truck or trailer and get your free compost or mulch. So it's that easy. So it's all recycled. That's great. So one of the things on my list was public safety, and we can't have public safety without the police department. So there's a lot of things happening with the police department. Right now, the K-9 unit is back. Thank you to the Seneca County Kiwanis Club, who raised $30,000 for bringing the K-9 unit back. The bicycle patrol is back, and hopefully when the weather gets better, then we'll see some police officers out on the bicycles. So around the neighborhoods and around town, that would be good. And they are really good at a lot of things except for coming in first at the Red Kettle Challenge. They always seem to come in second to the fire department for the Red Kettle Challenge. But one thing they are really good at is what they're trained to do. And I know that they're one of the best in the country because there's this rating called Lexipol. So it's nationwide. It's Lexipol recognition program. And the police department has been Lexipol Gold for how many years in a row? 3 or 4 years in a row? I mean, that's the top. That's top notch. And it's based on their policies and how well they follow their policies and training, and they're really good at what they do. The DARE program is back, and so this is back to our youth, educating our youth and being engaged with them. The DARE program now is not the same as the DARE program of the 1980s. The curriculum has been revised. It's not just say no. Nancy Reagan, is that who it was? Back in the 1980s, Just Say No campaign. It's not just that. They're teaching these kids to be self-aware, how to make the right decisions, how to be responsible, how to understand what's going on, and they work on relationships, communication, all the things that kids have to know today. So it's really good to have those relationships built and the officers in the school. And the DARE program is going to be paid for by our opioid settlement funds. So from the lawsuit against the companies that were distributing those drugs that cause people to get, addicted to opioids, we got a settlement from that. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough to help pay for our DARE program. So that's good. And they're involved in a lot of things where they have to collaborate and cooperate with other law enforcement agencies like the Metric Drug Task Force and the Emergency Services Units. And collaboration and cooperation is where things can get done more efficiently for less money. So I always like that. And crime has been down. Now, this, according to the reports that the chief gave me, 2 years in a row. So let's hope that keeps on going. Crime is down, so yay. I don't know if it's because we're living better or if the police are really out there putting a hammer down on it. But crime is down, so that's good news. And their goals for 2025, I just pulled out a couple of these that I wanted to mention. I can't really talk about all of those. It's too long and encompassing. But right now, at this point in time, Chief Pauly is working on restructuring and reorganizing the police department so that we can have more officers on the street and less officers behind desks. And I think that's a good thing. It'll also save the city a little bit of money in salaries so that we can use that money for other things that the police department needs. And the last item there, comes in, the things that the police department needs would be new radar units, upgraded dash cams, body-worn cameras. All of those things are going to be part of their capital requests so that they can be equipped with the best equipment that they can have. And we want them to be best equipped that they can have. We really do. And of course, everybody's favorite. No, seriously. No, really, it is. Everybody's favorite. I mean, going, of course, on the Red Kettle Challenge, this would be everybody's favorite. Now, I know Public Works has not been in the Red Kettle Challenge yet, but I can see the look on your face now. You're going to really want to be there for that. The Fire and Rescue Department, they celebrated their 130th anniversary this, let's see, I think it was February 2024. And they are also among the best in the nation, receiving the Lexipol Gold rating in 2024. So, and 25. Oh, excellent. So see, that's news to me. And in 2025, so 2 years in a row. So, one of the best in the nation, no doubt about it. They do a lot of runs, and I can tell you this for a fact because every single one goes past my house with sirens on. Any time of day or night, we know that they are on the job, okay? 740 non-EMS calls. That means calls for fires and other things that don't require an ambulance. That's a lot. And over 3,000 ambulance calls, EMS calls for service, with all of those opportunities to engage with the public. Now, sometimes the public that they engage with is like horizontal, which is, part of the job. But I know for a fact, and this did happen, and I mentioned this back in February of 2024, where I had a friend who had a heart attack, and they got to him in just 2 minutes, 3 minutes max, saved his life. That's the kind of things that they do. They are on the job. So thank you, Chief Chappell, and the entire Fire Rescue Department. Thank you. They also engage with our youth, running the Tiffin Fire Youth Academy. Now this one is, I don't know where I got those pictures from, probably a couple years ago, but last summer in 2024, I got a chance to go out there and watch the Fire and Youth Academy just for a couple hours. And those kids are engaged in doing stuff and having fun and learning how to do a lot of things that they wouldn't learn how to do ever except going there. It was awesome. My only regret was that I couldn't stay every day for like the whole time. They had the life flight there, the helicopter. They had the jaws of life taken off the door of a car. And I'm like, what in the heck? I never had stuff like that when I was a kid. So this is awesome. So those kids are going to remember that, and that's going to be one of those fond memories to say, hey, remember when we were at the park and we did all this stuff? Let's go back. And that's important, and the reason that's important is going to come up here in just a little bit. We'll talk about one of those kids who's now retired, wants to come back to Tiffin and do something good for the city of Tiffin. I haven't looked at my watch. Am I okay? I never thought I would be able to talk for an hour. By 5 more minutes before an hour's up. Not 5 more minutes before I'm done. It's just 5 more minutes before an hour's up. And you'll also see that Tiffin Fire and Rescue, they do their part of getting those grant awards as well. We were really excited. A few months back, this happened in 2024, I believe, the $265,000 FEMA grant for safety equipment. And that was a huge relief because we were getting ready to do the budget, and I'm like, I don't know where we're going to get these funds, and it's got to be done. So that was great to have that come through. Awesome. So when I was talking to the chief about all of the changes that are going on in the fire department right now, the one thing that he mentioned was that right now we're fully staffed for the first time in years. How many years? 2018, so 7 years. Fully staffed for the first time in 7 years. And you might think that hiring on an additional 4 or 5 firefighters would be an extra expense. But actually it turns out that it's not, because it's saving us money in overtime and callbacks that we don't have to spend, getting people to come in to take over for somebody who called off for being sick or on vacation. Because if we're fully staffed, then that's built into the program. So that is also really good. So glad to hear that. Is there anything you want to add? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so last but not least, our Parks and Rec department. Now, this is where most people actually engage with the city. You see the street being paved outside and the sewer being worked on, and you see the fire trucks and the police cars go by your house, but you don't really engage with them on a daily basis. But most people will spend some time going to the parks. So even though they only have 4 full-time employees, they do a lot. Tiffin has 18 parks. It covers over 200 acres of parkland, all taken care of by 4 full-time employees. Now, in the summertime, it expands for all of the seasonal and part-time employees, but those 4 guys, I think they're all guys. It doesn't have to be guys, it could be women. Okay. They take care of over 200 acres of parkland, and they do an amazing job at it. And even and that would be enough, but on this project here, they chipped in and they did the demo and prep work for the new tennis and pickleball courts themselves, saving us $18,000 just for that. Now, I did go out and buy a new pickleball racket. Is it called a racket or a paddle? I think it's a paddle, thanks. And it's a kit with a ball. I have all the stuff I need, but I've never played. So if anybody out there, if you have an inkling, if you want to play, give me a call. My number is really easy to find if you don't have my number, but I would be really anxious to go out there and try out these pickleball courts. It should be a lot of fun. Now, one of the biggest projects that they have done in my memory is this, the Hedges Boyer Wetlands, and it was all done by grant funds, $185,000 worth of H2 Ohio grant funds to put in this wetlands. And when you look at it now, it just looks like a big mud hole. But in the springtime, when all of the foliage, grasses, and all that starts growing, and it might even take a couple of years for it to fully come into its own, but that'll be great for mitigating the flooding that happens on the lower part of Rock Creek down there, where the baseball diamonds are, okay? It's also going to be a natural wildlife habitat, and it could, provide some educational opportunities for the youth as well. So that was really good. So a little while ago, I talked about a guy who came back to Tiffin. He lives in Florida now. He grew up in Tiffin, and he wanted to do something good for the city of Tiffin. So he called me up, and we had a conversation. He was explaining his vision, what he wanted to have happen, and I said, well, you have to see what we have. So he flew from Florida up to Tiffin International Airport. I think he flew into Columbus and then he drove the rest of the way. But we met Bryce Kuhn out at the parks, and we walked around looking at different sites, and then he saw the wetlands. Now, when he saw the wetlands, of course, they looked like this. But and apparently I don't have that ability, that vision to see what it could be. But he did, and Bryce did. So that labyrinth or really it's a contemplation area, a place where you can just go and sit and contemplate, look at the natural wildlife and just be by yourself. So that's the vision. And it's projected to be opening this September 2025. And that was just one guy's vision who wanted to do something great for the city of Tiffin. All paid for by private donation. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I can't stop now. We're almost there. We're almost there. Okay. Also, many of you probably spent some time out at the Sutton Bank iceless skating rink at Oakley Park. And it was only up, it started December the 8th, and then we took it down like 1st of February. So it was up for like most of December and all January. So 2 months. We had almost 2,000 skaters take advantage of this. And it was just great to see that all of the families that would come out and enjoy just being outside as a family. It was great. Those are the kinds of things that we need here in Tiffin. And when we can take advantage of those, then that's a bonus, especially for our young kids. After the parents brought them out the first time, sometimes the kids would just come out on their own and say, "Can I skate again?" Yeah. And we had sponsors for some of the evenings for skating, so it was free to skate. We didn't have a sponsor for every day, but for a lot of them, we did. And so that was great to see. And this was all a collaborative effort with, private individuals and local charities that put money together so that this could happen. It's amazing. Sorry. Okay. And there's more stuff coming for Tiffin Parks in 2025 with grant funds available from AARP. Now that is what you think it stands for, because they have accessibility grants. So if we need, let's say, a paved ramp to a ball field, or a walking path that will accommodate a wheelchair, any of those would qualify for AARP accessibility grants. And so we have those improvements coming to nature trails in Applejack Park. So things are going well. Okay, so do you recognize this? Okay. I used to drive by there all the time, and I would be on the phone with Susan. She would ask me, like, "When are you going to be home?" "Real fast, I'm right beside the stone pile." And she knew exactly where I was. But this has been a topic on Facebook recently. Somebody put something out there like, when is the city of Tiffin going to take care of this? I really didn't want to say anything. I just wanted them to find out on their own. But this is part of what's coming for this Welcome Home Ohio grant. So I have to tell you a little bit of story about this grant. I first learned about this grant before I was in office. In the winter of 2023, I think it was December. I happened to be at the county commissioners meeting, and I forget which one reported on it that this grant was available. I took notes. I immediately went over to TSEP and said, "Is this something we can qualify for?" And they said, "Maybe." I said, and that wasn't good enough for me, so I called Fostoria Economic Development. I called Renee Smith, and I said, "Is this something we can qualify for?" And she said, "I'm already working on it." I said, "Okay, perfect. Make sure that we include Tiffin in the application. We can collaborate on this and work it together." So we did. Now, I didn't take the lead on it. Renee Smith did. But she called in TSEP, GELCAP, Great Lakes Community Action Partnership, and let's see, Fostoria Economic Development, City of Tiffin, and the City of Fostoria. So we all had meetings about, like, how can we make this work? And eventually we got the application filled out, we sent it in, and we were awarded $2.75 million. It wasn't... It wasn't exactly what we asked for, but who's going to turn that down? It's like, not me. So right now, it's in the works for the city of Astoria, I think they're a little farther ahead because they had infrastructure in place. But we were looking at lots that we could use in the city of Tiffin, and the original lots chosen were not acceptable because the infrastructure was old and hadn't been refurbished yet, like the sewer, like on Elm Street. So we were kind of stuck, and then Dan Reinicke stepped up, and so Dan and Nikki donated property to the city of Tiffin that eventually went to TSEP so that this project could go forward. Thank you, Dan and Nikki Reinicke, for that. So the grant funds go to like putting all the infrastructure in place, preparing the site, getting those homes built, and eventually they will be sold. It's kind of like workforce housing. They will be sold to the final user of the house for $180,000 or less. And you might be doing the math in your head thinking, well, you're spending more than that in putting the house up. We are, because the infrastructure cost and preparing the site and everything else that goes into that. But as the project continues and those houses get sold and the grant funds get distributed, then we'll have more funds to help this perpetuate itself. It'll keep on going. We'll use the return from the sale of those houses to build more. And so that's going to help with our housing crisis. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that big stone pile will be gone sometime this summer, and probably sometime this fall, you'll see some houses pop up there, and then hopefully we'll get some people in there that are looking for a place to live in Tiffin. We need those. And people have just stepped up. Like the local banks stepped up and said, hey, we're going to get together and we're going to partner up with GelCap, all the banks did, and say, we'll figure out how we can get the people to qualify so that they can actually own these homes for down payment qualification and everything that they need to have. And GelCap will help monitor their progress and teach them about budgeting and finance and home ownership. And so it's all taken care of, but it's a big cooperative project. It's collaboration. And that's how things get done. It's hard to get anything like this done on your own. So like in a lot of these things that I have mentioned today, it's like all about us getting together and figuring out how we can make it happen together. All right, so things are definitely happening in the city of Tiffin. In 2024, there was at least 20 new small businesses open and a lot of expansions. And I think the word is getting out there probably in part or mostly because of TSEP, the Chamber, and Destination Seneca County. Because the eclipse, I know the eclipse went like nationwide when you did that. And so people hear about Tiffin. And so people want to come to Tiffin. Just last week, Bryce and I were on a call together with a very popular company that wants to come to Tiffin. And so we're doing everything we can to make that happen because people hear about Tiffin and it's great. People want to come to Tiffin. That's where it's at. So things are good right now. The facade enhancement program is back in full force. And in 2025, we have used up almost the entire endowment so far for this year. And about $100,000 total investment so far has yielded $300,000 in private investment total. That's a pretty good investment. And those are in our historic buildings downtown. And we need to keep those up. That brings more economic development in when we can do that. If people come to town because they're thinking of opening a business here and they go downtown and they see all of the work being done and the beautification projects and everything that's happening, that makes them want to come here more. If we let those properties get dilapidated, then that's not a driving force for economic development. Also, coming soon, and I'm sure there's more, but here's what I know so far. Taco Bell, I'm sure that you probably pulled in there or tried to pull in there earlier this week, or was it last week when they started? They're just doing a renovation. They're tearing the whole thing down and rebuilding it. And, you know, if business was bad, they would just tear it down and move away. But business must be good. They're doubling the size of their drive-through. We've got Take 5 oil change coming, hopefully. Okay. Wendy's relocating. The boutique hotel, I'm really excited about this. I got an invitation to do a walkthrough and view the plans earlier this year, and I was just amazed. Like inside that building, it's a wreck. But if you have the vision, you can see what it could turn into. And it could turn into something that will be a big boost for the entire downtown. I can't wait for that to happen. And I think that's supposed to finish up in 2026. They'll be working on it heavily in 2025, 2026. Tiffin Scenic Studio expansion, National Machinery expansion. I asked Andrew if it was okay to say that. And I'm sure there's more to come. There's a couple things that you know, you can't talk about all of them. Some people want to keep it confidential. Some milestones, and I know I left some of them out here. Even after I made this list, I know I left Webster out, but I did a little research and found out for any of these businesses, for a business to survive over 50 years, there's like a 5% chance of that happening. Most of them don't. But here is about 8 of them, or 9 or 10, that have survived over 50 years in Tiffin. And in all of this, the strength of Tiffin is in the people of Tiffin. Some people can afford to donate or invest, but everyone can afford to volunteer. And a lot of people do. And it's amazing to get that kind of response. So, people care. I am going to unveil a program called Tiffin Community Cares. I'll do that at another time when we have more time.